Hey, what's going on? It's Doug here, and I am going to talk to Christy, who has a site that just made over $9,000 in November of 2021. And Christy and I have been working together for a pretty long time. So if you want to see some of the other updates and track along with her story, there's a ton of other videos. I'll link them in the description. Christy, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Fantastic. And this is just going to be sort of a quick hitting video to highlight your journey. So, number one, how does it feel to have created a website when you didn't know anything before? And now it's essentially making a full-time income. I think we were talking that in the last 12 months or so, it made like 75K and it's just sort of been growing. So, how does it feel to create this out of nothing?
Yeah, it was something that I very first got into because I just felt kind of like my brain was atrophying. In my normal job, no offense to my normal job, I run my own business. Like that's my own thing also. But I was just like a little bored. It's just a little bored. So I loved just starting something that I didn't know anything about, like literally nothing. I'd never heard of an affiliate site before. I never got into SEO, like nothing. So I have a marketing background, but I never did any of that stuff. So it was really fun for me to get into that, like to take the course and to start doing my own research about it. And, creating something from scratch is something I'm comfortable doing. I think it's fun. But yeah, didn't know anything about it. And, to make a site that's generated, I think it's 114K since October of 2018. It's pretty bonkers as a kind of side gig. So,
And yeah, very amazing. And I remember when we got coffee over, I used to live in the same town that you lived in, or that you do live in now. But basically, yeah, you didn't know anything about affiliate marketing or SEO,
nope.
but you were pretty excited about it. And it's key, and we should emphasize that you have been working on the site for about 3 years. So it definitely wasn't a snap of a finger. It
Ew.
was a lot of work. So in the very beginning, how did you go about the sort of niche selection, and how important do you think that has been for your energy level to keep working on the site?
I think it's like the most important thing for it to be a topic that I actually cared about. I think people are different and not everyone needs that, right? Like sometimes people are more financially motivated and that might be enough for them to write about cheese or whatever. I don't know. I love cheese.
I
Though.
love
I
cheese too.
do that. Yeah. Now that I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, cheese site. But for me, like it had to be a topic that I was actually interested in and I spend a ton of my time on anyway. So that was huge. I remember when we talked about it, you were like, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I don't know anything about that. It might take a long time. So I did. I went through the process of considering other topics that may have been more immediately profitable, but I was also just like, do I want to be writing about that in 5 years? Not really. Meh. So for me, like this is something that I want to be building for 20, 30 years, and it's got to be something I care about to get that done.
Very good. Yeah. And I think for me also, being interested in the topic is really important. And I've tried and have worked on sites successfully that I wasn't interested in. And you just don't have the same kind of motivation to sit at the keyboard and do some stuff versus something that you're thinking about anyway and you're passionate about.
Right.
So keywords, right? So you found the niche. Keywords, how did you approach it, especially early on, those first, say, 6 months or a year or so?
Yep. I like religiously followed the KGR structure because I didn't know anything, right? Like I took your class, I did what you said, period, because I didn't know how to do anything, right? The one thing that I did do that was probably a little different from some people starting out was I was willing to invest in content like right away. I didn't pour 20K into the site or anything like that. Like it wasn't just, I don't know, we'll see if it works. I'll throw away a bunch of money on it. But I did invest in probably 100 articles that first year, some of which I wrote myself, some of which I hired other people on Upwork. And I did write a post about like exactly how I did that years ago at this point. But I was willing to get there faster, basically. And just knowing what I knew about SEO, like the more content that was there early, the better everything would be for me with Google. Like the more legit the site would look to Google, the more legit the site would look when I did outreach. And that was a big deal. So going back, like, yeah, I'm really happy that I poured a little bit extra money and effort into it right up front instead of ending up with a site with 20 pieces of content in a first year.
Perfect. How much content is on the site right now?
Will be around 500 pieces of content by the end of the year.
Okay. And you typically hire writers directly. You don't work with an agency. And correct. People can check out the post that you wrote and get all the templates that you use to not only hire, but the kind of templates that someone can give to their writers, for example, yep. So they know what to write. Any key tips for working with writers and sort of keeping them on board so there's not a lot of churn?
Right. So I am a writer in my other life. So I definitely value these people in a personal way. And I always get people who are experienced in my topic. Like, I'm not going to hire anyone who just says they could write about anything. That doesn't work for me. So I get people who are experienced in my topic, and I pay them more than most other people pay them, which is fine. I always have them write articles that are 1,000 words or more. Usually they end up writing more, but that's optional. Just need 1,000. And the one thing that I do pretty well is giving them topics that they are interested in. So when I hire a writer to begin, I ask them a lot about their background, what kinds of like subtopics they're into. I give them maybe a couple different posts that, maybe one is buyer's intent, 10 best, whatever. Maybe some are informational. And then I literally make spreadsheets telling me like what they're interested in, what they have experience in, what types of articles they did well. Because sometimes a great writer can't write a 10 best, whatever, like it's not their jam. So just keeping a really detailed list and then assigning them the things that they are good at. That just makes it way less work when I get stuff back. Because I have a pretty good idea that the content's going to be good.
What are the revenue sources?
So it's almost 50-50 between Amazon affiliates and ads. So I use Mediavine for my ad platform. I only added Mediavine back in, I think it was August of 2019. So I went quite a while with only Amazon, and then decided to put in ads once I had enough traffic. And I am really happy I did that now just for the diversification of income. But it's about 50-50 between those two. And then I have a couple of like much smaller affiliate programs that I'm part of, like Etsy. And then I also have my own products, which are newer. So that started only this year, having some, low cost paid guides that are about $10. I have 3 of those. And then I just launched my first course in November. And so we now have some income from that. So those are smaller channels, but it all counts. And I like, like I said, not being tied to one revenue source.
Very cool. And the courses are a whole other topic area, so we can't dig too deep into that. But if people want to check out some of the other interviews, we have talked about it quite a bit before. So Christy, any, I guess, tips for people that maybe they are just getting started, or maybe they're at a point where they want to, grow from say $100 to $1,000 per month, or $1,000 to $10,000, for example. So kind of broad, but people that are along the journey somewhere that you just went through.
Yep. So I would say, updates like the ones I put out are really useful, not just for me, but for other people to see, oh, hey, she made $14 that first month, right? And I was like rejoicing. I was like, it works, Doug. So regardless of where you are, right? Maybe you just hit $500 or maybe you just hit $1,000. Like those are all things I celebrated. Also, like this doesn't just come out of the gate and make $9,000 at all, but it is super doable. And if you're willing to put in the work on the content and the SEO, like those are the two most important things that are going to then pay you back every year more and more and more. So that's the biggie. I would do more content up front. As long as you understand the SEO behind it, you don't want to throw away your money on terms that you're never going to be able to rank for. So as long as you're following, kind of a plan, whether it's KGR, whether it's something else, as long as there's strategy behind it, more content up front is definitely the way I would go. The other thing I would say is just remember why you're doing it. So this is not something that's going to get you rich quick or maybe really get you rich ever. And that's okay. Most of us do it as a side hustle, at least for a while. And you can make real money that pays for real things, right? Like this would cover my mortgage and has for quite a while now. So that's pretty cool. Even if you have a second job or like me, you run another business. This is something that I'm investing time and money in now because in 20 years, I don't want to be running another business, right? Like I want to be out doing the hobbies that I like. Like many people, I'm going to have aging parents and that's going to take more time. Like I just know that I won't have as much time and mental energy for a traditional job, in 10 years. So I just won't have it. So this is something that I definitely am building for my future lifestyle.
Thanks, Christy. And people can get a lot more. We have probably hours of content where we're talking about your site and stuff like that. So really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Bye, Doug.